Alyssa Orange from Pictro Nation joining us on halftime here. She was somewhere here in the Emerald City of college baseball. Busy day, I know for sure, and you got a ton to do. Where are you right now, Alyssa?
Currently sitting in the Pictro car on the way to downtown. We're going to try to jump out, do a noon hit, grab some lunch, and then there's this cool place up by Rosenblatt that I've heard. It's an old training collector's place. Have you heard of this, Bill? And you go in and they give you a beer when you walk through the door.
No. Is that a stadium shop? Is that a card shop that you're going to?
Yeah.
Okay, Stadium View. I think that's what it's called.
Maybe, yeah, I think you're right across from the old Rosenblatt. So I think we're going to go up there and maybe talk to the owner.
Well, yeah, I think that's a really famous place, and they've been able to stay in business even after the College World Series moved from Rosenblatt down here to downtown. So, you live to fight another day, right? Dave Van Horn last night seemed pretty eager to move on to the next thing.
Yeah.
You got to answer questions about the game that just played and decisions and all of that kind of stuff. But today's the day, and Auburn's the thing. And right now, I think Arkansas's kind of set up pretty well for today as far as pitching's concerned. And the guy that they're facing, I think they've had some success against. So, you lose to Ole Miss. Yeah. I think you got a really good shot against Auburn tonight.
Yeah, I think you do. And I think the biggest thing right now, and I'm sure you guys have talked about it, is you have Will McIntyre. We've seen what he's been able to do down the stretch here in the postseason. And he's a guy you can have some confidence in. I think the biggest thing, like with Dave last night, is like, look, you go with Zach Morris. He explained why he wanted to go with him over Will McIntyre yesterday. And so on paper, it made sense. It didn't work out. Sometimes decisions don't work out, and you can't dwell on it and try to second-guess yourself. And you kind of do what Stanford did, where the game gets so out of hand where you just start throwing some other guys that you normally wouldn't, and then you save some more. So that's what we're doing today, and I think Will McIntyre can come out there and have a good showing. Obviously, what you want to see on the other side is Arkansas's offense starting to kind of get their groove back. This is the first game really in the postseason where this offense just didn't feel like they were in a rhythm at all. So you hope from an offensive standpoint they can get that going.
Yeah, and that's the other side of the coin here. You've displayed that you've been able to win slugfests in Stillwater and win low-scoring games in North Carolina. So, it seemed pretty easy to tell early that it wasn't going to be a low-scoring game on one side because no pitcher for Arkansas could slow down Ole Miss. But the Ole Miss is pitching. That's the difference between Ole Miss now and then. They might have lost Kevin Graham for a month, and that's a big deal because he's one of their top hitters. But their pitching has taken giant steps forward, and that was the difference yesterday. And you're exactly right about today. Offensively, sometimes this team just needs to be carried by the bats. Last night was one of those nights. Hopefully tonight's not one of them.
Yeah. Yeah, you would hope so. And, everyone jokes like, oh, they scored 17 runs in that first game with Stanford, should have saved some. That baseball does not work like that. We all know baseball doesn't work like that. You can't just save runs in your back pocket. But you would hope that, you kind of saw a little bit of it late. They're hitting the ball hard. They're just right at guys. But I love, the small ball approach with Zach Gregory and the bunt that scored the run there early on. Like, if you can manufacture runs, which we saw them do against North Carolina and against Oklahoma State, that is where you're going to win on the offensive scoreboard, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Alyssa, I think most people that have followed this team all season long, like all three of us have, you're feeling pretty confident tonight with the big bounce back, especially with the guys that you have on the mound that are 100% fresh, with McIntyre, Hagen Smith, and Brady Tigert, who all are keen to make appearances tonight. You feel really good, but out of the guys that were thrown in there yesterday, and pretty much just, let's face it, probably the only three that you're going to see that you saw yesterday going forward to be Zach Morris, Evan Taylor, and Cole Ramage. Out of those three, which one do you think you would have the most confidence in putting the ball in their hands in a clutch moment on Wednesday when hopefully you're playing Ole Miss again?
Yeah, I would say Evan Taylor, and it's because of Evan Taylor's track record this year. Cole Ramage might have the most College World Series experience, but I really think Evan Taylor's been able to prove that he can come out of the bullpen, he can throw hard, and he can throw pretty consistent. I know that he's had some outings that haven't been great, but if I had to pick out of those three, just from a experienced background that we've seen this year, I'm going with Evan Taylor.
Mm-hmm. That's obviously, I think I agree with you. That's exactly who I'd go with. And on the offensive side of the ball last night, it obviously wasn't what you expected. I mean, you expected to be able to have a few more bats, especially in the middle of your roster. Facing Auburn today, does this feel like it is gearing up to be a slugfest of it being, a 9-8, 10-9 type of ball game? Because we all know, especially with Sonny D for Auburn, they can hit the ball pretty well too.
Yeah, they can. And if you're Will McIntyre, you're really hoping that's not the case.
Exactly.
You're hoping you get some pitching out of your guys, because if it is a slugfest, man, I just don't know if Arkansas wants to make this a bullpen game. So what you would love to see is, Will McIntyre kind of give you a performance like Connor Nolan did in that first game against Stanford. But offensively, the one guy that needs to kind of get back on track is Caden Wallace. I don't know if maybe he's putting a little too much pressure on himself. He had such a great series with Oklahoma State and with North Carolina. Maybe he's pressing a little bit too much. But you got to get Caden Wallace, because, look, Jalen Battles hitting the ball really, like even last night, hit the ball really well. You've got Peyton Stovall, who is so much more comfortable right now than we've seen throughout the season with him. And you get Caden Wallace going and that top of the lineup going, that's where you're going to find some success. So, yeah, you hope Arkansas can put up 9 runs on the board. You're just hoping that, you don't see that kind of offensive power from Auburn. Maybe Arkansas's defense and their pitching staff can do what Ole Miss was able to do and keep Auburn off the scoreboard.
Well, the weather's changed, and not only is the temperature dropped, but the direction of the wind has changed too. It's no longer coming out of the south-southeast, so it's no longer, like blowing 25 miles right in the batter's face any longer. And you're going to get a little bit of help going out towards the outfield. I guess that also means fewer beach balls get on the field today, right?
What was it? Hey, Will, what was the beach ball pitch count? Was it 8?
Yeah.
8 beach balls. That's a lot for a 9-inning game. That's like a beach ball per inning, man. That's a tough stat to match.
Will was keeping track for us.
And that's one of the things that, stands out about the College World Series is the beach balls. And the other thing are the crowds yesterday. I mean, Arkansas's crowd never really got a chance to get going. Ole Miss was loud when they scored, but really that was about it. And now it's a Tuesday, and a lot of fans already. I wonder, are there fewer fans now here? Because I know a lot of folks that, have to work and had to get back to Fayetteville and might not be able to make it here for this game. They might have thought, all right, they win on Monday. I'll just come back when they get to the championship series. I have a feeling there's probably just a bit fewer fans here today.
Yeah, I think so. A lot of people that I talked to we're here for Saturday, maybe Monday, but we got to go back. Maybe we can come back Saturday if they're here. It's such an easier drive for Arkansas fans than anyone else. Maybe Oklahoma fans have got that kind of proximity where they can go back and forth. I ran into some people from Searcy yesterday who had gotten into town, but were leaving today. So I think you're going to see a lot more people here on the weekend. But this is definitely going to be a thinner crowd of fans. But you also have some Arkansas fans who make trips out of it and rent Airbnbs like we do and stay the whole time, and it's the summer family vacation. So no, I don't think there's going to be as many as we saw yesterday or Saturday, but there's still some wandering around here.
Hey, Alyssa, I know we have you here on the phone with us, but how's Courtney doing? Because I know she was in Stillwater, she was in Chapel Hill.
Yeah.
She's here. She's like us. She's been all over the place, and the team's played, I think this is 6 weeks in a row on the road. How's Courtney doing?
She's doing well. This is what she signed up for. This is what I told her she was going to get herself into when she joined us back in March, and so she's doing good. I think she's holding up her end. Now, how her cat's doing at home is a completely different story. Biscuit might be a little mad at her when she finally gets home.
I know what that feels like. She's mad at me right now, too. That's a fact. That's a fact. And I know because, and I'll give you a little secret here, you can do a drop-in on your Amazon, on your Alexa, And I've actually called my cat a couple of times just so that I know she's still alive. It's not like, she. I just want to know she's alive. That's
Bill,
it.
the crazy cat lady. Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
I mean,
Courtney's got a nice friend looking after Biscuit, but she's going to have to do some sucking up to her cat when she gets home for being gone so long.
Partners at BetOnline continue to be the #1 source for all your betting needs and sports info. Find all the latest sports developments, including updated odds on the NBA playoffs, fights, and even next season's futures. And don't forget that the MLB is back as well. Who are you picking to win the World Series? BetOnline is your continued source for all your sports wagering needs, including live betting and your favorite Vegas casino and poker games. It's super easy to get started. So head to the website today or use your mobile device to join and use our promo code BELIEVE. That's BLEAV to receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Bet online, where the game starts.
voice of Auburn Tigers athletics. We usually do over to the phone when we're on the show, but he's sitting right across from me here at DJ's Dugout, sipping on a soda. How you doing, Andy?
I'm doing well, Bill. How are you today,
I'm great. Yeah, you made the trip from all the way across the street from the team hotel.
I started early, got here early, so there we go.
That's right.
Yeah.
It's going to be a good one today, man. I mean, any game in the College World Series you expect to be a good game, but I think every game is going to be good, and then we get nothing but blowouts so far. It's just been a big surprise as far as that's concerned.
It has. Auburn's 2 games have not been of the blowout variety yet. Auburn has pitched it pretty well. Even the loss against Ole Miss, struck out 13 against the Rebels, held them to 5 in that first game. The problem for Auburn in the first game is it did not hit the ball very well.
Mm-hmm.
And Auburn's run up against 2 really, really good starters in these last 2 series. The middle game at Oregon State, the Jerpy kid is as electric as anybody I've seen in a long, long time. Left-hander with movement on every pitch. And then DeLucia on Saturday just shut Auburn down. Auburn got to him just a little bit, but Ole Miss is on a bit of a roll right now.
They really seem like it, don't they?
And you can say the same thing about Oklahoma on the other side.
Yeah, I mean the teams that are 2-0, they're sitting pretty.
Right,
they're sitting pretty, and in a much different way than in a weekend regional. You know, where you still don't get a day off. Right. I mean, the day off is the thing when it comes to being here in Omaha.
Yeah, and Auburn losing that first game, for Auburn to make it to the championship game, they had to win yesterday. They've got to win tonight, and then they got to win 2 more games against Ole Miss to get there. And there is no day off until you get to the championship series. So it is so imperative to win that first game in this tournament. Auburn's not done that since 1967, and Auburn hadn't won a game in the tournament since 97.
Wow.
When Auburn's current pitching coach, Tim Hudson, beat Rice, was the winning pitcher, hit a 2-run homer and drove in 6 in that game.
That's amazing. He actually was hitting then, too.
Yes. Oh, he was the SEC Player of the Year his senior year. Hit 20 bombs his senior year.
Yeah, you know, we see it's amazing these guys. Does he ever throw batting practice?
Not much.
We saw when we were in Oklahoma State, Andy. Matt Holliday is throwing batting practice to us. He looks like he could go out and hit right now. He still has the Popeye forearms. It blew me away. I'm like, he looks bigger than he did when he was playing for the Cardinals.
Yeah. It's interesting. You see, we're seeing more major league guys, and not just major league guys. Big name major league guys. Tim Hudson's on the Auburn staff. Troy Tulowitzki.
There's talk he might be a head coach somewhere soon.
Well, I was talking to a former USC player who was here. We were walking to the stadium together, and that player was talking about Tulowitzki for their vacant job there. So, yeah, his name's being out there. Matt Holliday at Oklahoma State. You're seeing more and more. I mean, I know it for a long time we saw Tom Pagnazzi there.
Yep.
And I'm a Cardinals guy. I grew up near St. Louis, so I follow the Cardinals. So it was interesting. We were out the last time we were in Fayetteville for baseball. We went to Herman's, which is a we always go there. And Pagnazzi was back in the corner.
Yep.
So it was interesting to see him. So, but there seems to be more of those big name, big league guys that are trying to get into the college game right now.
All right, so everybody wants to talk about Sonny DeShera when it comes to Auburn, and rightfully so. Yeah. I mean, watching the guy hit is really something else. But you win yesterday without him really doing much. I mean, he struck out at 3 at-bats, even got called for a batter's interference, if I remember correctly.
That was Pierce.
Oh, that was Pierce.
That was the guy behind him, yeah.
Okay, but, you know, so what are some of the other batters that you got to watch out for when it comes to the Auburn Tigers? Because it seems DeShera and Pierce are kind of like the main guys. Who else has hit well in the postseason?
When I did the pregame show with Butch Thompson yesterday, I said, who's your offensive key? This was going into yesterday's game against Stanford. And he said very quickly, it's Blake Rambusch, who's at the leadoff guy for Auburn. And he was 0 in the game against Ole Miss, and he did not have a hit in the series, the Super Regional at at Oregon State. But Rambusch gets 2 base hits yesterday. He scores both times. And when Rambusch has scored 2 or more runs in a game, Auburn is undefeated this season.
Interesting. Has he always batted leadoff?
He has been Auburn's leadoff guy for probably 2/3 of this season. He was around the lineup. They moved him to the top of the lineup, and he has flourished there for Auburn. Odd to see a guy like him that leads the team in stolen bases, but he's a corner infielder.
That's true.
That's your third baseman.
Yeah.
And Andy, you talk about this as the first win that y'all got yesterday in Omaha since 1997. What's the vibe of the fan base? I mean, just the Auburn fans that are there and just the ones that are back in the state of Alabama. Is it a play with house money feeling right now that it's been a great season regardless of how or when it ends, or is there some pressure on this team to really perform here in Omaha?
You know, when Auburn came here in 2019, I think most fans felt that Auburn was playing with house money that year. But Butch Thompson, going into the regional this year, and after Auburn won that regional, he didn't talk like a coach that was just happy to win a regional. And that was Auburn's first regional at home since 2010. And I know you guys at Arkansas are you're used to hosting in the postseason.
Spoiled by
okay.
Andy.
All right, okay. But for Auburn, I think Auburn has taken that. Auburn is using that this year. This will be a team that's disappointed if it doesn't make the championship series. And it will be tough. We all know how tough it will be because you lost that first game. But it's a different vibe this year than it was in 19. And I think Butch Thompson wants that to become the case with this team. We're not just happy to make a regional. We're not just happy to get to Omaha. We want to win. We need to win in Omaha. And that hasn't necessarily been the case for Auburn in years past. Butch Thompson is trying to do that. He's done it now 2 of the last 3 seasons, brought this team to Omaha. A lot of firsts this year, getting to host a regional, winning a regional. They've won 2 straight super regionals, which had never happened until what they've done the 2 of the last 3 seasons now. So it's a different deal at Auburn right now with Butch Thompson and what he's done with this program.
And that's ultimately a good thing, Andy. I mean, mad and pissed off fans are fans that care. You want fans to constantly want to push your program. You want the expectation. You want that bar to constantly rise. You never want to just be okay with just getting to something. You want to eventually have the program that is there to win it all and has a great shot. Mason Barnett's set to start for Auburn tonight. For an ideal outing for Auburn tonight, how far into the game does Barnett need to be out there? Does he need to go full 6? Does he need to go 7, possibly even 8? Like, what's the range for him? Say, if he goes blank, Auburn's probably going to win the ball game.
If he gets through 6 tonight for Auburn and is effective, Auburn feels very, very good about his start. He's probably been Auburn's best starter in the postseason. He was terrific against UCLA in the regional championship game. He might have gone to the distance had we not had a rain delay and had to pick up the game the next day. He was as good as he's ever been as a starter at Auburn. And he was good in spite of the fact that Auburn lost that game. He was just going up against maybe the best starter that Auburn has seen this year in Cooper Jerpy for Oregon State. But he was very, very good at Oregon State. So he's been terrific for Auburn. Auburn feels good about this rotation in spite of the fact that it lost its Friday night guy in the Tennessee series this year in Hayden Mullins.
Yeah.
And when that happened, Barnett went from the midweek guy into the rotation. And Auburn was fortunate to have a Mason Barnett to get into the rotation at that point. Because as we all know, when you lose one of your weekend guys, all of a sudden you're scrambling a little bit.
And it feels like everybody's lost one of them this year,
sure,
too.
Absolutely. And some have lost more than that.
That's right.
At this point.
I think what Butch has done at Auburn is amazing, Andy. I mean, you just look at the two SEC programs in baseball out of Alabama, and you're already starting with one foot in the bucket because you don't have the lottery. There are certain advantages that some schools have based upon the idea that baseball teams are only funded by 11.7 scholarships. Mississippi's got their own recruiting thing going on with basically their own JUCO league. Arkansas gives state level tuition to schools that border the state of Arkansas, and you have students that get help with tuition because of the lottery in Arkansas. Florida's got the same thing. I mean, they're built-in
Hope
advantages.
Scholarship in Georgia.
Yeah, Vanderbilt has, they pay for everybody basically.
Right.
So, I mean, Auburn and Alabama are starting with a disadvantage, yet this is the second time in 3 tournaments that you guys are in the College World Series. I think it's incredible.
Well, and let me add one more. You talked about the in-state tuition. You cannot. It's against the law in Alabama. The state legislature will not allow you. It's not an Auburn thing or an Alabama thing. It's a state legislature thing that you can't offer in-state tuition to a student-athlete. Men or women, doesn't matter at this point. So you don't have that. And there are some things that Auburn works against. And listen, it's trying to improve its stadium and add some luxury seating that it doesn't have at this point. That a lot of programs, like we see at Charlie Baum Field, or you see at Dudy Noble, or you see at Swayze Field, or Alec Bach Stadium, or wherever you go. So Auburn's trying to get there from a facility standpoint, and Butch Thompson has done this and recruits very well. Carl Nonemaker, a former Vanderbilt guy, is Auburn's recruiting coordinator and has done just a wonderful job. And Auburn has helped itself with the transfer portal. You talked about Sonny DeShera. He's a guy that transferred. Auburn's DH, Brooks Carlson. Another reliever, Chase Isbell. They all 3 transferred in from Samford this year and all been main cogs in what Auburn has done this season.
Andy, we'll end it right there, man.
Right.
I appreciate you stopping by again. It's
I'll
good to
see you
talk
tonight.
to you. Yeah, I'll see you over at the ballpark in like 5 hours, probably
That's right.
less than that.
Appreciate it,
Gotta
Andy.
start to prep.
My
You
pleasure,
don't get
guys.
Much time. It's Andy Burcham, the voice of Auburn Athletics, here on Halftime. And hey, if you want to watch the game, of course, if you're not just going to sit there and listen to it, and you want to get something to eat, well, the place to be would be Twin Peaks in Rogers. Of course, they've got 29-degree draft beer all night long, and you can celebrate the College World Series and enjoy yourself at Twin Peaks in Rogers. Plus, they've got their fabulous scenic views, great food, and fantastic atmosphere. More TVs, bigger screens, and more to watch at Twin Peaks in Rogers. Call us or text us on Halftime at 877-377-6963, and we will be right back.